Well, welcome back, everybody. It's nice to be sitting here talking to you after going 4-0 on a trip that we didn't have any expectations of how we would do. It turned out to be a really good trip from a basketball standpoint. I thought we were able to see quite a few things. You know, the only thing that I demanded out of the guys was that they play hard and play together and work on our man-to-man defense. So they did that, and they did it in a terrific fashion. And we came out of there with nobody being injured. We had a great time culturally and socially, and it will be a trip that we all will remember. So with that, I'll just open it up for questions.
Craig, it looked like Angus did a lot of good things on the trip. Did you see him grow exponentially in that short time?
You know, that's a good way of putting it. But what you guys didn't see in the numbers, first of all, he had a great trip, fantastic trip. He's playing really well. But what these numbers and the blogs don't show is how unbelievably confident he is. I think he might end up being the biggest surprise on this team this season. He's like a monster we've created. We've been talking about confidence, and we've created a monster, and that's a good thing. So he's more vocal, he's more aggressive, and his overall play is augmented his leadership. So it was really fun to watch him.
Hey, Coach. Development of Roberto Nelson, he was the sixth man last year, but how do you see him, especially after playing pretty well over here, his role next year?
Yeah, I think Roberto has finally given himself over to our process. You know, when you're a really good player who's good at a lot of things, I think you tend to sort of try and manage the system your way. I think he's stopped doing that, and he's given himself over to us. That's a term that we use around here a lot. And I think once he did that, he's become a better overall player in the areas that he was weak at. He's a much better ball handler. He's a much better defender. And he gives us a constant effort now, not just when he thinks he needs to play hard. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in real games against real competition, but there was really nobody to match up against him when we were over there.
Craig, what does a trip like this do for team camaraderie and chemistry?
Yeah, Lindsay, I thought that our team had about as good a chemistry as it could have possibly had last year, and now that we've gone on this trip, I think this team chemistry is better than last year's. I think when you do a trip like this, and just so you know, this is my first trip like this, you find out a lot of things early on, and most of them are off the court things. And, you know, I put these guys in a lot of culturally difficult positions. And I shouldn't say difficult, but just new things for these guys to soak in. And I thought they did a wonderful job of paying attention, not whining, being intellectually inquisitive, and not getting on guys who are more inquisitive than others. So I guess what I'm saying, there was very little hazing of the guys who were interested in the cultural stuff. I think they were all equally respectful. And I think that made our team a lot closer. And you could see it on the court whenever we had any kind of tough times. I rarely had to say anything, and they sorted things out on their own, because I think they really care about each other and what each other thinks of themselves. Phil?
This was kind of like your first opportunity to see some of these incoming freshmen in a
Right.
game-type situation. Did anybody kind of impress you, and anything that maybe you didn't know they could do that you learned?
Yeah, all three of them impressed me a lot. I was reluctant to think that they were going to be able to help us much as freshmen, given the experience we have coming back on this team. All three of them are going to be able to help us in games, and the significance of that help is going to be completely correlated with how well they get into sort of college game shape. You know, none of our players have ever been in game shape this time of the year. Nobody ever is in basketball. Basketball players are notoriously bad at conditioning themselves. So these guys, by the end of the trip, were, you know, they were guarding guys. They were running the ball up the floor, and the freshmen were right along there with them. And you, save for a couple of freshman-type mistakes, turnovers, things of that nature, I thought these guys were, they acquitted themselves extremely well. I think Jamal Reed, in particular, when he gets in shape, he's going to be something we've never had, like a real true small forward. Langston Morris Walker, I think that kid can defend 4 positions. I think he can defend 1 through 4, as long as the 4 is not a 7-footer, 6'10" type guy. If he's sort of your average 6'8", 6'7" to 6'9" inch power forward, I think he can defend there, and he can rebound. And then Victor Robbins showed us a lot. I mean, we thought he was going to be really good. We thought he was going to be really good. He's better than advertised, at least for our staff and for the few games we played. Now, he's going to have to do that against some really good competition early on, but we'll see. We'll see how he does. But right now, you know, I don't want to put any extra pressure on those guys, and I don't think we will have to, because we've got a veteran crew that's going to play ahead of them. But these guys will get some playing time.
Coach, kind of continuing on that line, how do you feel, or what did you learn about the depth in your rotation?
Yeah, that's. I think we'll be able to play 12 guys this year if we needed to. I don't think my rotation's going to be that deep, but you've got 12 guys competing for playing time, and that's always nice to have. You know, Daniel Gomez is probably the one he's still about 75%, but 75% of Daniel Gomez for 12 minutes a game is going to be just fine with me. And having the flexibility of having this kind of depth, I couldn't even try all of the different kinds of lineups I wanted to, because that, you know, to use the term exponentially, we didn't have time to do it.
You said, Craig, that you wanted to go in and work on your man-to-man defense. Do you feel that it's improved drastically, and are we moving away from the 1-3-1 more and more?
The quick answer, the answer to the second one, we will never move away from the 1-3-1. It's been good to us, and we'll always play some 1-3-1. But gone are the days where we play entire games of 1-3-1. I mean, you know, we had to do that because of our talent level and because we were trying to sort of muddy the game up enough to keep it close enough so we'd have a chance to win. I think that we are a man-to-man team now. Athletically, I think we are. I think philosophically we are. And I think the guys have bought into being good man-to-man defenders. We still have some work to do, but we're so much better than we were at the end of the year last year. Those 10 practices we had sort of helps that out. And then you have a year of playing man-to-man under your belt. So we're not the same team as last year from an experience standpoint. So you're going to be better just from that standpoint. And the last thing I'll say is a really good man-to-man team makes your zones better. And so it's sort of counterintuitive. You play your zone less, but because you play it less, it's more effective.
I was curious what the off-the-court highlight of the trip was, or the funniest story.
Yeah, you know, Sean asked me that for the blog, and I couldn't come up with anything at the time because he asked me at the airport after a 10-day trip, and I was completely exhausted, and I didn't want to throw Tom Fragoso under the bus because he fell a couple of times while we were over there. So now I don't feel bad about doing that. He fell a couple of times, but he's okay. But that was not the funniest part of the trip. The thing that there were plenty of funny things that made me laugh out loud, but the one I wish I had said on the blog now that I thought about it, we were in Barcelona, so we had spent 3 days in Paris. We go to Barcelona and we either did a bike tour or a walking tour or a bus tour in every city. So we did a bus tour in Barcelona, and we got off the bus, and there was a incredibly well done statue of a soldier that we found out was actually a real person pretending to be a statue. And you know how the guys are. The guys are, the first thing they look at are the girls who are around. But I saw the statue, and it struck me that it was a bronze statue of a soldier with a real cigarette in his mouth. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Somebody put a cigarette in there. And then I noticed that there was a can with money, so I was like, this dude is real. So I dropped in €1, and he gave me sort of a high sign. It was a dude dressed up as a soldier. So of course, Eric Moreland had no idea. And Eric walks over, and the guys are all standing around, and they're this close to the guy, and they're looking at him. And I drop another €1, and the guy moves, scared Eric to death. I think it took 2 years off his life when he realized that was a real man. And so he, I think, used like €9 to get him to move after that. But it was a great trip. That was one of the funnier things, aside from Tom taking a couple of tumbles over there.
It sounds as though Eric, Coach, was able to survive that and shoot 16 of 19. I mean, what kind of shots was he getting? 16 of 19 from the field over there?
Very astute, mon ami. But Mike, the reason why he was 16 for 19 was because he did not take any jump shots. He's like, this team has really given themselves over to what we talk about, and how we talk about if you do the things that you can do. Our team has what I found out that is our team has a term called play your role. Not my term, their term. They say that. When he plays his role, he is unbelievable. Eric Moreland, I talked to you about Langston being able to guard 4 positions. Eric Moreland can guard all 5. Not only can he guard all 5, is that when he's taking good quality shots, he's an effective offensive player for us. And I think he's going to evolve into the guy who guards the other team's best player. He had a very good trip. But it wasn't surprising, because we could see sort of the hints of it at the end of the season last year.
Victor Robbins, again, the numbers, it's probably not enough of a sample size, but he did make 4 of 10 threes. And I just wonder, is that kind of who he can be? Yes.
Victor can be a really good player here at Oregon State and in the Pac-12. He is he's really a freshman. I mean, he does a lot of freshman things, but in spite of all of those, he had some really good numbers. He banged some threes for us at times when, and they were the types of shots where you'd be like, Victor, don't shoot that. Oh, good, nice shot. You know, it was those types of shots that were big for a freshman to be making. But what doesn't, again, come out in these stats, this kid is incredibly athletic. And different from Jared athletic. I mean, we all know as Beavers now elite athleticism. This kid is an elite athlete in a different way. He's fast, he's strong, and he jumps high, but he does it less spectacularly, more efficiently.
Before you left, you talked about your sense was the competition, the teams you're going to be playing were pretty good, and you weren't even looking at what your record would be, per se. How good were the teams, ultimately, that you ended up playing?
I thought the teams were a notch less competitive than I thought they were going to be. And the reason was because of the lateness of the Olympics. A lot of their top players and their foreign players who come over, their sort of hired guns, weren't there. Now, having said that, we were playing against pros. I mean, we played against guys who get paid to play for a living, and we still managed to score 80 points and remember what I said about the officiating. We were, you know, it left a lot to be desired. So we had some adversity that and still won games by, you know, more than 10, 15, you know, about 15 points. So that was good to see. And then the final team we played, the Real Cano team was a team, you know, the second division in Spain is as good as the first division anywhere else. And this team was one win away from moving into the second division. So that was probably the best team we played, and they gave us the best run for our money. And we had played that game after playing a game right the night before, so I didn't know how we'd do, and I was really happy the way we battled in that game. And so, yeah, the competition and the results, it was nice going 4-0. I don't think that tells you as much as about the way we competed, how good the freshmen are, and certainly nothing was better for this trip than the 10 practices we got to have before we left.
You talked about Victor's athleticism, comparing him to Jared. Is he a guy who could maybe replace Jared's role on the team?
They're different players, and you know, Jared came to us more as a lockdown defender first, and then turned into an offensive player. Victor is the complete opposite. He is an offensive player that we're trying to train to be a good defender. So to throw him into the Jared comparison this early would be malpractice on my part, especially given the fact that they're different types of players. But he certainly can be the type of player that will make some noise by the time he's a junior or senior in this league, certainly.
Could he also provide the matchup problem similar to Jared did?
You know, it remains to be seen, because right now he's not a point guard dribbling type yet, but I don't see why he won't be if he does the things that we did. Because when you remember back to Jared's freshman year, he couldn't dribble either. And Jared just worked on it. And what I like about Victor, what they do have in common, is that they love the game and they love the work. So he's always, I mean, you know, he was on the train. We took a train from Paris to Barcelona, and I flipped up my laptop. I was trying to make this a very non-stress type trip. So I flipped up the laptop, started watching tape, and wanted to see who was going to come up and watch themselves. Victor was like the second or third person to come up there, and he was really doing some self-analysis on his own play. So he's going to get better. Those are the signs of a kid who likes the work.
Coach, the on-court performance during the trip is one thing. How about off the court? Who are the cultural stars of the team?
Oh, the cultural stars. Well, I think everybody was, because what we tried to do was we tried to find things that are interesting to 19 to 23-year-olds, you know, aside from all the women over there, because it seemed like that's, if there could have been a museum of women, we wouldn't have any trouble getting the guys to go there. But we did a bike tour in Paris instead of doing the sort of walking around listening to guys tour. So that was fun, because you got to cover a lot more ground. And our tour guide was terrific, just very knowledgeable. And we wanted the tours to be more storytelling than sort of facts. And we had great tour guides. But I think the thing that really snared them on going to museums was when we went to the Salvador Dali Museum. And I don't know how many of you know Dali's work, but nothing is as it seems. That's sort of his deal. And for a bunch of 23-year-olds, when you show them a picture and then you have them look at it differently, and it's a completely different picture, and you have a couple of nudes in there, and you've got a couple of different things going on, it grabs their interest. And Dali has this one picture, one painting, that when you look at it in this huge room, you're about 150 feet away, it looks one way. And then when you take a picture of it with your iPad, now there was no iPads back when he painted this picture, you can see what the other picture is. That blew him away. That absolutely blew them away. And from then on, they were in the art museums trying to figure out what was going on that wasn't necessarily going on. So that made that museum fun for them, aside from the fact that it was near the beach and we went to the beach after that, so they were having fun at the beach. And then we went to the Prado Museum, which is, once again, another brilliant art museum. We didn't go to the Louvre. I mean, the Louvre is a little bit overwhelming for these guys. So what we did was we toured outside of it. Let me see, what else did we do? Oh, man, the flamenco dancers. I don't know if you guys saw Daniel Jones on the video that we sent back of him, and how they picked Daniel Jones. It was like they were on our team, and they knew exactly the guy to pick. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic up there. And I thought that the guys, you know, I have to give myself a C- on my grade of expectations, because I was managing my expectations for the guys not enjoying the cultural stuff, and that I had to sort of like force feed them into it. Not this team. They were having a blast. They were engaged with the flamenco dancing. They were engaged on all the tours we did. They were engaged in the museum. So it made for a really nice trip, along with the fact that they played hard and played together.
Coach, you got to have the team together without Jared, and while Jared wasn't, really a ball hog, he was sort of the center of last year's team. How can you sense the team is developing without Jared?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you look at these sort of makeshift stats we got. We played 4 games. We had 82 assists. It's 20 a game. That's a lot of assists, especially in the summertime when guys are trying to work on their own stuff. So that was something that jumped out at me. And the other thing, and this was too small of a sample to really tell this, but we'll be able to tell this by the time we hit the conference. I don't want to jinx ourselves here, but I think we're going to be a better defending team losing our best defender, if you know what I mean. I sense that all of these guys realize what we lost in losing Jared, and have all tried to step up their game from a defensive standpoint. Now, right now, it's too early to tell, and people will hear this and they'll forget about it by the time we talk again in October, but I'm hoping that that's the case, because that's the initial feel that I got watching these 4 games and watching the practices we had before we left.
Speaking of Jared, before you left, you kind of said that you were looking for someone to replace his leadership part of it. Being in a foreign place, I know you probably didn't face much adversity, but just being away from home and that, did you see anybody kind of step up in that role?
Good, Phil. Good question once again, my friend. I did, and I was worried about it. Right now, our captains are Angus Brandt and Ahmad Starks. Those two did a terrific job sort of leading this team. I suspect that there might be somebody else who will sort of rise up and make it a sort of 3-man captaincy, but if it doesn't happen, that's okay, because those 2 guys are handling it just fine. And this was their first time, and Ahmad being young, it was a lot of experience to shoulder, but we've got a pretty veteran team, so the leadership just comes from everybody. And that's what I noticed with the term I'll use again, is the adversity we faced from the officiating, which you knew going in. We're the foreigners. They're not going to see us again. Their teams want to do well, and they've got to live there. And our guys just would not get baited into any kind of mess. And there was a lot of sort of soccer-type flopping going on, which reminds me, let me just, the biggest and most impressive thing we did was go to the Real Madrid FC Barcelona football match. That was by far the best cultural event we did, and I thought that was a throw-in. When we realized that game was being played, we wanted to see if we could get tickets. We were able to get tickets because everybody's on holiday. 91,000 people at a game at 10:30 at night, and there were little kids there. I mean, like 6, 7, 8-year-olds at the game. Easily the greatest sporting experience I've witnessed. All the guys liked it. Roberto and Daniel Gomez and Charlie, all the foreign guys, all the international guys were excited about going there. But once we got there, everybody was just taken away. taken away with how it's such a different mindset over there with regard to football. And this wasn't like going to a football game where there was all kinds of distractions going on. There are no cheerleaders, there's no instant replay, there is just the game. And everybody's watching every single minute of the game. And I think our guys were really impressed with that. Really impressed with that.
Last one from me here. Just, a trip like this, how much does it kind of epitomize what it means to be a college basketball player, combining kind of both aspects?
Yeah, it's terrific. Only thing was missing were actual textbooks, but I think the guys learn more being on these tours than they would in a classroom. I think when you go to Paris and you see all the statues and all of the sort of the booty that Napoleon was able to take from other folks, you understand what that was all about, and I think it was the best history lesson these guys have ever had, and it just hits you right in the face that college is a great time to learn about a lot of different things, and it's not always in the classroom.
So Craig, you guys have been back for a couple days. What's going on now? Are they off until school starts, basically?
No, not until school starts. They're off. So the freshmen are off until the 14th because they can't get into their dorms. The upperclassmen are off until Tuesday, and they'll come back and do some working out voluntarily on their own. And then we'll start on the 15th with our workouts. That's when we can start doing our 2 hours a week workouts. And then October 12th or 13th, whatever that Friday is closest to the 15th, that's when we start regular practice. So we are so far ahead of where we would be had we not had to play a few games that I've given them more time to sort of be on their own and also given us some time to get back in shape.
And then I was curious, does the football game being postponed this weekend affect you guys at all? Did you have any kids coming in for visits?
Ironically, we didn't, because we were thinking that since we're just coming back from this trip, if there were any snafus, we didn't want to have come back and have a trip set up. So we're all just going to, the guys were going to go to the game and sort of have a game off. When during the football season, we rarely have a game off. We are always entertaining. And we thought it'd be a good idea to let the guys who are going to be here just go to the football game and kind of relax and get their minds right. But now, without the game, the cancellation of the game didn't affect our recruiting at all.
Coach, obviously with the new Pac-12 network, there's a lot more exposure nationally for you guys, but especially looks like 8 games on the ESPN family of networks. How do you feel about all that and stuff like that?
Yeah, that all of that is. I'm a big fan of getting as much exposure as you can. I mean, there's no publicity like publicity. I mean, what's the term? There's no such thing as bad publicity. And so, I jokingly said to the folks at the Pac-12, we'll play back to back if we can get on ESPN or the Pac-12 network. So we want to be on television all the time because that helps us from a recruiting standpoint, probably more than some of the other teams in the Pac-12 like Arizona and UCLA who get on all the time. So we're really excited about being on the ESPN family of networks a bunch, and then and the Pac-12 network is just gravy for us because now all of our games will be on. So that helps with our recruiting, and it also helps with our players who we recruit players from all over everywhere. Now their parents can see the games.
With regards to recruiting, it seemed like you kept busy even before the trip, like Chicago, West Coast. How would you describe the summer in that?
It remains to be seen because we're recruiting now for 14 and 15, and the fact that Jared gets drafted in the first round, that helped us this summer. It was really an exciting summer for us. People wanted to hear from us. There are a lot of people who are interested in Oregon State. I think as the season starts, when people start to see our team play, that'll help even more. The practice facility coming back and seeing a wall up and having that to point to every single week, we can show some progress on that. All of those things will have made recruiting a lot more fun for me and the staff.
Were there opportunities for you abroad to check maybe some international?
No, because first of all, you can't. I wouldn't have been able to go see him because it's not it wasn't a evaluation period. But I did go over there and do some recruiting in July when the evaluation period was open, and we're hoping that maybe we can garner somebody from some of that evaluation.
Just real quick question about the schedule. November 9th, it says to be determined. Do you have any idea who's going to be filling that game?
I do. Not telling you, though. They'd kill me if I did, the guys who run the tournament. But it's close to being decided. We're still not 100% sure, so I wouldn't say it because as soon as I say it, it would get changed. So, but the dates are correct, and the Sunday game is going to be televised on ESPNU or something like that. And then we head to the Garden, so both of those games will be on television. So it's really excited about the schedule too. Yeah.